If you were building the perfect version of planet Earth, you would probably leave out the griefers. You know the ones. The mosquitoes that lag the game with itchy debuffs, the vultures that hover like specters of death, and the parasites that literally steal your XP while you were trying to level up. We call them the toxic players of the natural world. They are gross, they are annoying, and most of us think the server would be a lot smoother if they were just patched out or banned. But here's the terrifying truth. If you actually deleted these players, the entire simulation would crash within weeks. We're talking a total server wipe. The very animals we find the most repulsive are the unsung moderators and system admins keeping the biosphere from a catastrophic blue screen of death. Today, we're looking at why nature's most toxic players are actually the only reason the game is still running. Most people see a vulture and think of a feathered coffin. They are associated with decay, bad luck, and a stench that can peel paint. But in the grand design of the Earth's ecosystem, the vulture is the ultimate antivirus software. Imagine a world where every single player that died just stayed there on the server, creating massive piles of corrupted data. Without scavengers, carcasses would sit and rot in the open air, becoming breeding grounds for anthrax, botulism, and cholera. These diseases are the malware of the natural world. If left unchecked, they would trigger a cascading system failure, wiping out entire populations of herbivores and predators alike. But vultures have a unique superpower. Their stomach acid is a biological firewall. It is 10 times more acidic than ours, capable of dissolving lead and killing almost any known pathogen. When a vulture eats a diseased carcass, the virus or bacteria does not just die, it is deleted from the server entirely. In parts of the world where vulture populations have crashed, we have seen exactly what happens when the moderators disappear. In India, when the vulture population plummeted in the 90s, the server started lagging hard. Carcasses piled up, the feral dog population exploded to fill the niche, and rabies cases skyrocketed. It cost the human economy billions and thousands of lives. It turns out that when you lose your most toxic-looking janitors, the whole environment becomes actually toxic. Now, let's talk about the players everyone loves to hate, parasites. If nature had a report button, we would be spamming it on the parasitic wasp or the common tick. It feels like a glitch in the game's design that a creature can thrive by slowly draining the life force of another player without even giving them a fair fight. But ecologists have discovered that parasites might actually be the most important stabilizing force in the food web. Think of them as the balancing patches in a massive multiplayer game. Without parasites, the top-tier players, the dominant species in any given habitat, would become too powerful. They would overpopulate, consume all the resources, and eventually cause a total resource depletion. Parasites act as a stealthy check and balance system. They move energy through the food web in ways that visible predators can't. In some ecosystems, the total biomass of parasites actually outweighs the biomass of the top predators. They are the invisible hands moving the sliders on the server's difficulty settings, ensuring that no single species gets too much of a lead. But it gets even weirder. Some parasites are basically nature's way of forcing interaction between players. Take the Gordian worm, which infects crickets and eventually brainwashes them to jump into water. It sounds like a horror movie, but when that cricket hits the water, it becomes a massive XP boost for the fish in the stream. In some forests, these mind-controlled insects provide up to 60% of the diet for local trout. Without this toxic brain hacking, the fish populations would collapse and the entire river ecosystem would go offline. We often think of the world as a place of competition, but it's actually an economy, and the parasites are the ones keeping the currency flowing. Speaking of keeping things moving, we have to talk about the literal bottom feeders, the maggots, the dung beetles, and the fungi. These are the players who spend their entire lives in the chat logs of the world, dealing with the stuff no one else wants to touch. If the lions and tigers are the star players getting all the highlights, the dung beetles are the server maintenance crew. Every year, these tiny tanks bury millions of tons of waste. This isn't just about cleaning up the aesthetics of the server. It's about nutrient cycling. They take nitrogen, which is like the server's primary building material, and they inject it back into the ground, where it can be reused by the plant life. Without them, the server would run out of memory. The soil would become sterile, the plants would wither, and the game would literally run out of fuel. It's easy to admire a wolf or an eagle, but they are just the end users. The dung beetle is the one making sure the power stays on. You might be wondering about the truly aggressive players, the ones that seem to kill just for the sake of it, or the ones that steal from everyone else. This is known as kleptoparasitism. Think of hyenas or skuas. They wait for someone else to do the hard work of hunting, and then they swoop in and take the loot. In the human world, we'd call this griefing, but in nature, this behavior is a vital part of the server's efficiency. It forces other predators to be more efficient, to hunt more frequently, or to adapt new strategies. It's an evolutionary arms race that keeps every player on their toes. If there were no threats, no thieves, and no toxicity, the players would become stagnant. Evolution would slow down. The server would become boring and eventually fragile. These toxic interactions are the friction that generates the heat of life. Let's take a look at the mosquito. It is widely considered the most hated animal on the planet, responsible for more human deaths than any other creature. Surely we can just delete them. Well, scientists have debated this, and the results are surprising. In the Arctic, mosquitoes form massive clouds that migrate across the tundra. These clouds represent a colossal amount of biomass. They are the primary food source for thousands of migratory birds that fly halfway around the world to feast on them. If you patch out the mosquitoes, those birds don't have enough fuel to make the return trip. The pollination cycles in those regions would also stall, as male mosquitoes are actually significant pollinators. Even the most annoying player in the game has a role that is hard-coded into the server's survival. This brings us to a hard realization. Our definition of toxic is entirely based on our own perspective. We like the animals that look like us, or the ones that provide us with something beautiful or useful. We hate the ones that remind us of our own mortality, or the ones that see us as nothing more than a resource. A system needs inputs, outputs, and feedback loops. The animals we find the most repulsive are often the feedback loops that keep the system from spinning out of control. They're the ones that recycle the dead, prune the weak, and distribute the resources. If we continue to see these animals as villains, we risk making a fatal mistake. We are already seeing the effects of human-led server updates. We've removed the predators, we've tried to eliminate the pests, and we've destroyed the habitats of the scavengers. Every time we try to clean up the server by removing a toxic player, we accidentally break 3 other systems we didn't even know existed. The server isn't running in spite of the toxicity, it's running because of it. The next time you see a vulture circling, or a wasp buzzing near your soda, or even a fly landing on something gross, remember that you are looking at a professional. You are looking at a specialist who has been performing the same high-stakes maintenance job for millions of years. They aren't here to ruin your game. They're here to make sure the game can continue for everyone else. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the server mechanics of our planet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and toggle the notifications. We are building a community of players who want to understand the real rules of the game. Leave a comment below and tell me which animal you used to hate but now realize is actually a vital part of the server. Let's get a discussion going about the most underrated players in the niche. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next patch notes on the natural world.